Hello and welcome back to Storytime. Today I shall be continuing with my absolute favorite book, Redwall by Mr. Brian Jacques. Chapter 3. Crooney the Scourge lay upon his bed, racked with crippling pains. Rat captains gathered in the corner of the sick room. They sat silent. The terrible injuries would have proved fatal to any other rat on earth, but not to Crooney. A broken arm, a broken leg, numerous cracked ribs, a fractured tail, smashed claws, and other hurts not yet diagnosed. Red Tooth and 4 of the others might have set upon their leader and finished him off for good. But the fear of his legendary powers was too strong. Nobody knew for sure the extent of Crooney's remorseless vitality. Watching him now, the barrel-like chest heaving up and down, the still strong tail swishing spasmodically, Red Tooth marveled at Crooney's strength. He was not even sure if Crooney was shamming, pretending that his injuries were severe merely as some kind of test or trap that he had set for his captains. The 12 sentry rats were locked in the hut they had been set to guard. It was now repaired. They had been soundly flogged for letting the Vole family escape. As a further punishment for concocting lies about a big hare and a young mouse, Red Tooth ordered that the 12 be starved until further notice. He had been lenient with them. Crooney would have sentenced them to death and personally killed them with his bare claws. Outside in the churchyard, the leaderless horde did absolutely nothing to reorganize. Sitting about licking their wounds and waiting for the chief to recover seemed to be the order of the day. Again, the mouse warrior armed with his ancient sword returned to haunt Crooney's fevered dreams. Once more he was falling from the plank on the abbey wall, falling. Below him waited spectral figures. Ragier, with a blue face bloated to many times its normal size. A rat skeleton dressed in Crooney's own battle armor. A huge hare with enormous feet, and a thick-bodied, venomous-looking banded snake. He tried to twist away from them as he fell, but however much he swerved and tried to change direction, Crooney had only to look down and see the fierce-eyed warrior mouse, waiting, always waiting. The sword point held upwards for him to be impaled upon. Crooney tried to cry out, but not a sound came. It was as though his throat was being squeezed tightly. He felt the sharp sword pierce his chest. Bong! Once more the sound of the Joseph bell tolling out across the fields from Redwall wakened the warlord. Fangburn, who was trying to extract a piece of elm branch from his chief's chest, leaped backwards in fright as Crooney's eyes snapped open inches from his own. "Get away from me," Crooney rasped. Fangbird retreated, mumbling excuses. Crooney eyed him suspiciously. He didn't trust any of them. "If you really want to help, go and get hold of some of those new recruits who live locally and bring them here to me," he gasped. Within minutes, Fangburn had assembled a band of the recruits around Crooney's bed. "Where's Scrag the Weasel?" Crooney growled. Cheese Thief stepped forward, wiping imaginary tears from his face with the back of a filthy claw. "Don't you remember, Chief? He fell out of the big tree. After I'd taken care of you, I went back for him, but when I got to him, the poor weasel was dead. What a good, kind—" "Ah, shut your moaning face," said Crooney irritably. "If he's dead, then that's that. Here, you recruits, come closer and listen to me." Apprehensively, the little group shuffled forwards. Crooney raised himself slightly on one elbow. "Do any of you know where a healer can be found? I don't mean one like those mice. I need a creature that knows the old ways. A gypsy, one who could cure anything for the right price." Kilconey the ferret bowed elaborately. "Ah, 'tis your lucky day, your honour, for don't I know the very vixen." "Foxes?" echoed Crooney. "Aye, Foxes, sir, the ferret replied. Didn't me old mother always used to say there's nothing like a fox to fix. There's a whole tribe of them living across the meadow, sir. Old Sealy the Vixen is the one you'll be wanting, her and her son Chicken Hound. They'll fix you right up as rain if there's something in it for 'em. Does your honour want me to fetch 'em? Slowly, Clooney's tail wound itself about the ferret's neck, drawing him in close. Get them, Clooney said hoarsely. Find the foxes and bring them here to me. Kilconey's throat bulged as he tried nervously to swallow. I will indeed. If you'll just let go of this poor old ferret's neck, I'll go as fast as the devil himself was chasing me. You lay back down now and rest your noble self, sir. Crooney released the ferret and lay back with an agonized sigh. Now was the time to think and plan ahead. Next time would be different. Redtooth, he called. Take some soldiers and scout around. See if you can find a great hard timber, a big log or tree trunk, something that will serve as a battering ram. The mice might have won a battle, but Crooney had not yet lost the war by the claws of Hell Thunder. Those Abbey mice were going to pay with blood for what they had done to Crooney the Scourge. Chapter 4. Brother Methuselah was busy with a small brush and a pot of black ink. As he brushed the dust of ages from each letter on the wall, he filled it in with ink. This would make it easier to read the message that had been graven underneath the tapestry. Ah, Matthias, there you are, Methuselah squeaked. He blinked over the top of his glasses at the young mouse. Look, this is something I want you to see. Quite by accident, I discovered this writing beneath where Martin's picture once hung. Matthias was full of unconcealed excitement. Oh, what does it say, Brother Methuselah? He cried. The old gatehouse keeper sneezed as he brushed more dust from the lettering on the wall. All in good time, young mouse. Here, make yourself useful. You brush the dust off of the words while I ink them in. Between us, we'll soon get it done. Matthias set to work with an energetic goodwill. He scrubbed vigorously, sending up clouds of dust. Between sneezes, Methuselah hurried to keep pace with him. 1 hour later, they both sat on the stone floor, drinking October ale to quench the dust while they admired their handiwork. It's written in the old hand, said Methuselah, but I can read it clear enough. Matthias jostled him boisterously. Well, what does it say, old one? Hurry up and read it to me. Patience, you young scallywag, chided the ancient mouse. Be quiet and listen. It takes the form of a poem. Who says that I am dead knows not at all. I am that is 2 mice within Redwall. The warrior sleeps twixt hall and cavern hold. I am that is take on my mighty role. Look for the sword in moonlight streaming forth, at night when day's first hour reflects the north from o'er the threshold. Seek and you will see, I am that is, my sword will wield for me. Matthias blinked and scratched his head. He looked at Methuselah. Well, what did it all mean? It's a riddle to me. Precisely, said the old mouse. It is indeed a riddle. But don't worry, Matthias. We will solve it together. I have sent for food and drink. You and I will not move from here until we have the answer. Shortly afterwards, Cornflower arrived bearing a tray of breakfasts for them both. Nut bread, salad, milk, and some of Friar Hugo's special quince pie. She was about to strike up a conversation with Matthias when Methuselah sent her packing. Shoo! Away with you, little field mouse. I need Matthias with a clear brain to help me solve an important problem. So run along. Cornflower winked at Matthias, shook her head at Methuselah, and walked off with mock dignity, her nose held high in the air. Matthias watched her go until Methuselah tweaked his ear. Pay attention now, young mouse. We must study this bit by bit. Let's take the first two lines. Who says that I am dead knows not at all. Matthias waved a paw. His mouth filled with salad, he mumbled, "But we know that Martin is dead." Methuselah took a sip of milk, pulled a wry face, and reached for his October ale. "Ah, but if we suppose that he is dead, then the words tell us that we know nothing at all. So let us assume that he is alive." "What? Do you mean Martin, alive and walking about?" said Matthias. "We'd recognize him. Unless, that is, he was disguised as someone else." The old gatekeeper choked, spluttering ale all over his habit. "Oh, good grief, I never looked at it that way. Very good, young one. Maybe the answer is in the next two lines. What do they say? I am, that is, two mice within Redwall." Matthias repeated the words, but he could make no sense of them. I am, that is, what is? Two mice within Redwall. Two mice it tells of two mice in one, replied Methuselah. They sat silent a while, both racking their brains. Matthias mentioned something that was bothering him as he looked at the graven lines. "What I cannot understand is that sort of dash. Look, I dash am, that is. Do you see, there's a small dash between the words I and am. In fact, the same dash occurs 3 times throughout the rhyme. Here, here, and here," Matthias pointed. Methuselah adjusted his glasses and peered closely. Yes, you may have something there. It could be the key to the whole thing. I am, that is. Let's say that the dash separates the line so that we will look at the last 3 words. Am, that is. Suppose we took that part out. Then it would read, I, 2 mice within Redwall. Matthias shook his head. What do you make of that? Oh, complete nonsense, replied the old mouse. Let's stick with am, that is. Oh, sounds all mixed up to me, Matthias grumbled. Methuselah looked up sharply. Say that again. Say what again? You mean that it sounds all mixed up to me? Methuselah executed a little jig of delight. He patted the wall with his paw, shouting, That's it! Why couldn't I see that? It's all mixed up, of course. The old mouse took a great draught of ale. Cackling with glee, he pointed a paw of Matthias. I know something that you don't know. And that is Matthias. The young mouse frowned. So the old one had finally cracked. He was in his second infancy. Methuselah, he said kindly, hadn't you better lie down a while? But the old gatekeeper kept pointing. He began to chant, Matthias that I am, Matthias you that are. The young mouse stood tapping his tail in exasperation. I wish you would tell me what you're so excited about, he said severely. Why are you saying my name? Methuselah wiped tears of laughter from his eyes as he explained. When you said it was all mixed up, that got me thinking. Martin was talking of 2 mice, himself and another. Ergo, Martin is represented with the word I. The other mouse is, and that is, all mixed up. Now do you see? Matthias leaned against the wall. I'm afraid I don't follow you. Oh, you young booby, Methuselah giggled. I mixed the letters up and rearranged them. It's your own name, and that is Matthias. Are you sure? Said Matthias in astonishment. Of course I'm sure, replied Methuselah. It couldn't mean anything else. Your name has 8 letters in it. So has am, that is. An M, 2 A's, 2 T's, an H, an I, and an S. Whichever way you look at it, Matthias, or am, that is, it comes out the same. Methuselah, do you realize what this means? The old mouse sat down beside him, nodding gravely. Oh, yes, indeed I do. It means that Martin somehow knew that one day he would live on through you. Matthias was staggered. He knew about me. Martin the warrior knew my name. Can you imagine that? The enormity of it overwhelmed them both. For several minutes they sat, no word passing between them. Matthias suddenly leapt to his feet. Right, let's get on with it. Look at these lines. The warrior sleeps twixt hall and cavern hole. I am that is, take on my mighty role. Well, the last two lines are pretty clear. They mean that Martin, carrying on through you, has a great task to perform. Well, what about the first two lines? Matthias said. They seem fairly obvious, too. Between Great Hall and Cavern Hall, there's a flight of stairs. Come, old mouse. In spite of his advanced years, Methuselah gripped Matthias's paw and ran so fast that the younger mouse had difficulty in keeping up. Between Great Hall and Cavern Hall, there were 7 stone steps. The problem was, which one held the answer? Thinking caps on again, said the old mouse. Let's make a close inspection of these steps. Together, they examined the steps minutely, going back over each one several times. Matthias sat on the bottom step. He shrugged. Well, they appear to be 7 ordinary broadstone steps. Nothing special. Quite the same as any other set of stairs in the Abbey. Wouldn't you agree? Methuselah was forced to agree. After sitting a while and letting his eyes roam about, Matthias remarked, I've just noticed something. The name of our abbey is carved into the wall as you go up the steps on the left-hand side, and also as you descend on the right-hand wall. It reads Redwall either way. Methuselah walked up and down the steps, testing what Matthias had said. Yes, so it does. You see that each letter is 1 step's width. 7 letters for 7 steps. Surely that must be some kind of a hint. Again, the two friends sat to ponder the mystery. This time it was Matthias's turn to become excited and point a paw at his companion. I know something you don't know. Methuselah pursed his lips in annoyance. You know, Matthias, for a mouse that claims affinity with Martin the warrior, you can be singularly foolish sometimes. No more foolish than you were when you were saying the same thing to me not so long ago, Matthias retorted. Methuselah coughed and cleaned his spectacles on his habit. Yes. Well, I apologize. Now, please tell me what you have discovered. Matthias explained. If you place the word Redwall running both ways as it does here, you will notice that only 1 letter occurs in the same place, the letter W. Furthermore, if you were to turn a W upside down, it becomes the letter M, which stands for Martin, Matthias, and also for Methuselah, my old friend. Well, curl my whiskers, the young scoundrel has a brain. And it works too. It's got to be the first step, the middle one up or down. The step in question proved to be as solid and unmoving as its counterparts. Even with their combined strength, the friends could not budge it a fraction. Matthias wiped sweat from his brow. Take a breather, old one. I know who can handle this. Full Mole and his team. The moles were not long in arriving. They gathered round the step, sniffing and scratching. Mole exercised his authority, clearing them out of the way. You're moles, getting out of the light. Letting them dog at bone there. Mole placed the length of the step, then shuffled sideways over it. He tapped it with his great digging claws. He sniffed it, licked it, and rubbed it with his velvet head. Were you gentle beast known about in this your step? He asked. Together, they related all the information to the attentive Mole. He blinked short-sightedly as he ruminated. 4th and upwards, same downwards. Yeah, Walt, Ark, Dolby. Ain't that same as your grandmums do find when she rootin' in them old-time fortifications? What is he saying? Whispered Matthias. Methuselah translated the curious mole dialect. Mole said the 4th step upwards is the same as the 4th step down. That much we already know. He consulted the 2 mole brothers, Walt and Dobie. It seems that the step is the same as one found by their grandmother when she was exploring an old-fashioned castle or fortifications. Moles are very sensible creatures, you know, and I think they have the answer to our problem. Oh, good old Mole, said Matthias. Hush now. Let's hear what Walt and Dobie have to say, whispered Methuselah. The 2 mole brothers respectfully tugged their noses to Mole before answering. That be Drusa. Our grandmum, she'd find lots of 'em. Aye, that she do. Never digging or breaking, just turning 'em after dusting. Methuselah interpreted to Matthias. Apparently their grandmother was somewhat of an authority on steps such as these. The clever old mole would neither dig nor break them. Evidently she could turn the step over once she had brushed it. Matthias addressed Formal courteously. Excuse me, sir, but do you know how to deal with this step now? If you do, then my friend and I will be only too willing to help you. Formal smiled, his whole face almost vanishing into dark velvet wrinkles. He clapped Matthias on the shoulder in a chummy way. The young mouse was amazed at the weight and strength of Formal's paw. He was glad that it was a friendly pat. Formal chuckled deeply. Nay, nay, bless your little heart, Matwise. You'd knowed Methuselah and be not but mouses. Leave her to Formal. I'll deal with him. He says that he can cope adequately without either of us, said Methuselah. Formal produced a thick, fine-haired brush from his tunneling kit. Bending close, he brushed furiously at the upper and lower insteps of the fourth stone. As he swept, he snuffled and blew, following the path of his brush. It soon became apparent that the stone had been cunningly jointed. The dust came away to reveal a continuous hair-lined crack which ran around the edges of the step. Formal rummaged in his kit and came up with a tin of grease and a strong, thin bar, one end of which was flattened like a spatula. Smearing the grease liberally on the top of the third step, Methuselah inserted the flat metal tip against the base of the fifth step. He dealt the blunt end of the bar a smart blow, setting it firmly into the crack. With a swift movement, he levered the fourth step an inch forward, exposing a long, dark gap. With a grunt of satisfaction, Formal called out to his team, "Your moles, gather round and set your digging claws in him crack." The mole team dug their claws into the gap, chanting together as they heaved with a will. "There she come, if you please, moving boulder, slide on grease." To the astonishment of the watching mice, the step slid smoothly outwards on the greased stone. It turned completely over to reveal a dark opening with a downward flight of stairs running off into the blackness below. And we shall continue next time.